Move ahead in time. Just wanted to review a bit.
As the 1988 Olympics in Calgary approached, Katarina Witt had a chance to consolidate her stardom by doing what only Sonja Henie had done before her, winning back-to-back Olympic gold medals in the ladies' event.
To win a back-to-back gold medal is so difficult because, you know, going in there to defend your Olympic title, everybody has you to measure their training on, and everybody's out to beat you. And here you won an Olympics and, you know, you were at your peak. Now they want you to be at your peak again and to lead the pack. And everyone is like clawing at you to, you know, be that special person that wins the Olympics. And to be able to withstand that pressure 2 times is amazing, because the Olympic nerves are like no other nerves you ever feel in a competition.
To hold off the competition, Katarina would need to rely on both her athleticism and her ability to entrance an audience. Frau Mueller had famously told Katarina to pick one man out of the crowd and play to that face.
Katarina, by nature, is flirtatious and loves to be the center of attention. She's kind of the original, you know, maybe after Sonja Henie was like the next big diva in the sport.
It's a picture that I see when I think of Katarina. It's a sort of her, you know, her flirting. I saw her apartment, and she had these like heavy dark wood bookshelves and cabinets built in this little studio apartment, like all around the walls, and the whole thing just decked out with dark wood, like gothic, you know, cabinets. And then her bedroom was a little alcove, and it had like a mirror on the ceiling. And it was just like a little, you know, like hip love pad in the middle of East Germany, you know.
Her sex appeal was also a competitive asset, which Frau Mueller exploited by casting her as Carmen in her Olympic-long program.
Carmen was sensual, she was sexy, she was aggressive, she knew what she wanted, and she was going to go and get it. And nothing stopped her. It was a kind of blasting through kind of performance, and wonderfully, I think, suited to her.
I think that a lot of the times in her skating and in her personal life, she feels like a seductress, and that's what Carmen was.
By then, I was in love with somebody, so I would feel passion and fire. You know, actresses, they always have to make studies. They have to experience. If they study a character, maybe I lived Carmen.
Katarina was trim, fit, and determined to win the Olympics. Before she left for Calgary, she had a conversation with the East German officials. If you get first place, they said, you can turn professional and travel abroad. Anything less, and you'll be coaching in Karl-Marx-Stadt.
I had to make a deal with them that I wanted to become a professional and I wanted to be able to go in a show and say, okay, we allow you if you bring home your 2nd Olympic gold, and if you don't, you're not allowed to. So I had that pressure, knowing going into those Olympics in Calgary, I need that gold medal to be able to continue with my biggest love at this moment, which was skating.
She wanted to be able to travel. She wanted to be able to make money. She wanted to be able to be a star. She wanted to be able to have the freedom to make decisions for herself. And that is what winning afforded her.
On the eve of the Olympic competition, a controversy broke out. Katarina's costume for the short program was considered too revealing.
In '88, she wore a costume for the short program that looked like she was a nightclub dancer, you know, with feathers and all kinds of stuff. You know, it was racy at the time.
Frau Mueller hastily sewed on a few more feathers, and Katarina went out and wowed the crowd in the short program. Heading into the Olympic finals, Katarina and American Debbie Thomas were virtually in a dead heat. Whoever won the long program would win the gold. Both would skate to the same music, Carmen.
The build-up began about the time they lit the cauldron at the opening ceremonies. this talk of the Battle of the Carmens, the dueling Carmens. You've got the East German, the communist, the wily veteran in Katerina, and then this wonderfully athletic American woman, Debbie Thomas.
So going in, you know, there are a lot of people, you know, any rivalry has a lot of debate around it. And so people are going, well, Debbie Thomas has got more jumps, and she's doing this, and she's doing that, and she's more athletic.
Before Katerina even took the ice, the media was making an issue of a lengthy section of her program in which she posed and played to the crowd for a good 45 seconds. Katerina, critics argued, was trying to win with her wiles, not with her jumps.
There's no doubt that Katerina was about sex appeal and selling and the feminine wiles and drawing the audience in, but also doing it in a very competitive way. When we look at Katerina Witt, we should not look at the East German bombshell entirely. We're missing the point. Katerina Witt is as competitive an athlete as I have ever seen.
I think that Katerina competed like a man. I mean, she was aggressive and she was fearless. I mean, I competed against some difficult people. I would never have wanted to compete against Katerina Witt. I remember walking in the door as Katerina was skating. From that opening jump, it was just the most enormous jump I have ever seen her do. And I thought, wow, she's really on. She was solid. She was consistent. It was good enough that if Debbie made mistakes, Katerina would definitely be the gold medalist.
CSI Miami, Sundays at 11 on A&E.
Calgary, 1988. Katerina Witt has just skated a brilliant performance under pressure. Now, American Debbie Thomas takes the ice.
I skated before Debbie, so I was able to watch her. And then I was a little provocative, I guess, when I stood on the board.
I remember Katerina saying to me that she knew that Debbie Thomas wasn't going to skate well in the long program when she was up close next to the barriers, because Debbie went to give her coach like 10 and she missed his hand on one of her hands, and she goes, I knew that she wasn't focused. I knew that she wasn't going to skate well. And sure enough, it was that.
Under the pressure, Thomas cracked, ceding the victory to Katerina.
Debbie had far more firepower, far more athletic firepower. Katerina wasn't doing triple-triples, but down deep, you had one of the toughest competitors you would ever have in any sport, ever. Male, female, I don't care. She refused to lose. And what Debbie Thomas found out was you could not one-up that woman.
Katerina and East Germany had won the Battle of the Carmens.
Of course, I felt pressure from the country because they sort of used it to give a statement that socialism is better than capitalism. You go out on the ice, you don't think about that. You think about, hey, you want to give your best. But the second you're on the podium and you hear the anthem, you are thankful. I always felt, since it's free and I didn't have to pay for, my payback was to be good. I wanted to give back to the people who were on the TV watching, crossing their fingers, and I knew they helped me being able to do my sport.
Katerina's triumph that night guaranteed her freedom. Her government would now allow her to tour the West, to lead a life that was forbidden to all but the tiniest fraction of East Germans.
If she didn't win the second gold medal, the things that she was able to do would be taken away from her. So it was a necessity to her. Because I don't think, if that would have been taken away from Katerina, she would have I think that she would have died.
By then, her celebrity was so big and, you know, her success was so great that for them to smother that by, you know, making her go to school or become a judge or a coach would have been an embarrassment to the East German Skating Federation. So I think they negotiated to let her out and let her perform and do pretty much whatever she wanted to do as a professional. So it was like, here, world, here's your Katerina, enjoy her.
The world had a new queen of the ice. But unlike Peggy Fleming and Dorothy Hamill, Katarina Witt was no innocent girl next door.
Well, Dorothy and I, were Americans. We came from a relatively simple background. Katarina, was from East Germany, where the government really, has a lot more power and control over its athletes. She used her beauty, she used her personality, and she played every card that she could. And she's, in some ways maybe a little tougher than Dorothy and I because of that background.
It's always been kind of the sweetheart thing, with media darlings and figure skating. But I think Katarina was in modern skating the first one to really turn heads in a way that was beyond what she brought to the ice. And it was also because East German, the wall, forbidden fruit, she was always kind of just out of arm's reach, which makes her more desirable. And so, yeah, I could see why people would definitely think of her as kind of the first real sex symbol.
In the spring after her 1988 Olympic victory, Katarina toured the U.S. and Canada with other skating stars, staying in posh hotel suites and receiving flowers backstage from admirers. Katarina was living out her dreams.
She always wanted to invite movie stars to our tour. She just loved that, and I think it's probably this, little girl growing up in East Germany, not knowing, too many famous people, and then coming and having people know who she is, and then, going like, oh, movie stars know who I am, so, let's invite music artists and movie stars. She had a young energy about her. It was very giddy. It was like a girl in a candy store. I mean, literally, America was a place where she could, do anything.
Katarina attracted the attention of Italian skier Alberto Tomba, tycoon Donald Trump, and television actor Richard Dean Anderson of MacGyver fame, among others. She was having fun on tour, but in the back of her mind, there were nagging questions about her future.
We were sitting there, and it was the last night of tour, and, just talking about our lives and what we should do.
There was nothing else for me after 88. That's why I decided to quit, because by then I was already 6-time European champion, 4-time world champion, and then 2-time Olympic champion. And definitely another competition would have been not another challenge for me. I wanted to be more in shows and enjoy the performance part of it.
Katarina decided to partner with Brian Boitano and launch their own skating tour. Unlike Ice Capades and other family shows, the Witt Boitano tour was entertainment for grown-ups. The concept was wildly successful.
I think the reason why our combination worked, and why we could, sell out Madison Square Garden, is because there was still a magic to Katarina being East German and me being American.
Great stars like Katarina, they want to work. They look at it like, okay, I'm going to grow as a professional. I'm not going to just go and skate one number and knit backstage. She was in a place where she wanted to grow as an artist, and that was the right realm for her.
However, each time a Western company approached Katarina, it had to negotiate with East German officials who tightly controlled their biggest star's career. Katarina began to wonder if she would ever be able to fulfill her potential as a professional. She could not imagine that her entire world was about to change.
I'm in debt way over my head, but I don't know where to turn.
I get offers to lower my monthly payments and get out of debt fast. But I don't know if these companies are reputable. It just sounds too good to be true.
I'm really scared, but I'm even more confused. So I end up doing nothing.
Your fears are well-founded. There are millions just like us who don't know where to go or who to trust. That's why people who have credit card debt or feel that bankruptcy is the only way out are turning to Cambridge Credit Counseling for help. When you call Cambridge Credit Counseling, you get a free consultation from a certified counselor who understands your problems and will address all of your concerns. They'll even send you a complimentary copy of their book, Debt-Free for Good.
I wish I had read this years ago.
If you have credit card debt, call 800-840-1313 for your free consultation and complimentary copy of Debt-Free for Good. The call, the advice, and the book are free, So get relief today. Call 800-840-1313.
Leader in home health care products helps people get out and live their lives again.
And I would watch and go like, oh my God, what is going on? It was sort of a mixture between, wow, that is incredible, and being frightened. Yeah, being afraid and not knowing what will happen.
We were filming Carmen on Ice when the wall came down. She left from filming one night really early, and she was wearing a mink coat, or no, it's a big white fox coat, and she was going on one of the premier German talk shows. I was like worried that the West Germans would think, here's a communist wearing a fur coat, and then the East Germans would think, well, we can't afford fur coats, so I'm like, why wear the fur coat? You know, I was worried because the East Germans were trashing famous athletes' cars on the streets. And she was driving into town just doing what she would do. Katerina's not a scared person. She's going to be who she is.
With the collapse of the wall came freedom. Now that she could travel and earn money as a professional, Katerina spent more and more time in the U.S.
With the wall coming down, she became much more lovable to the American audience. She was the East German, the communist who beat the American girls. Now, Katerina Witt started to gain the respect and the admiration that she deserved that she didn't have for a full decade because she was the enemy. Now she wasn't the enemy anymore.
I'd walk down the street in New York where they're here, Fifth Avenue, you know. I mean, everybody in that damn street knew her. Just Katerina, Katerina, Katerina. Everybody knew her in America. You'd think she was an American.
Katerina's ice shows drew huge crowds. Her Carmen on Ice television special, filmed with Brian Boitano, won an Emmy Award. But despite her success, it wasn't easy adjusting to a new country and a new language.
And I remember one time that we were skating in a show, and she was skating in that show to Michael Jackson's Bad, you know? And she had this leather jacket on, and she was really hot, and she just did all these moves. And we were taking a bow, and we were right next to each other, and we were holding hands, and she was crying. So I'm like going, why are you crying? What's wrong? And she's like, she points up to the audience, and one sign, there were two signs next to each other. Brian, you are the best, and Katerina, you are bad, like capital letters, B-A-D, bad, underlined. And she's crying, and I'm like, what's wrong? And she's crying. She's like, how can they say that you are so good and that I am so bad? I'm like, Kat, they mean it like bad, like the song, like good, bad, you know? And then she started smiling and laughing.
Life on the road was exciting at first, especially for a woman who could get as much attention as she wanted.
She's the biggest flirt in the world, Katerina Witt. I had people, men, wanting to meet her, take her out on dates.
I just remember she was able to get the guys to do anything, but if she doesn't get what she wants, she goes, please do this for me. And so she would have one of the skater guys that was like so hot on her, said, can you please go get me an ice cream down the street? So this guy runs back with the ice cream, you know, and he knocks on the door, and she's there, and she opens the door, and she goes, thank you, click, you know, and this guy's sitting here with ice cream running down his hand, you know, going, oh, I thought she liked me.
Her professional success in America was incredible for a foreign athlete. She appeared in magazine spreads, endorsed Diet Coke, and was named one of People magazine's 50 most beautiful people.
She could act. She was very photogenic, very camera-friendly, willing to work.
Other than Sonia Henney, it's Katerina Witt. She follows Sonia. European, come over here, a superstar in skating. America embraced her. They embraced her. Everybody loved Katerina Witt.
Katerina Witt is a crossover athlete. Katerina Witt is every bit the kind of athlete that you'll see in Vogue, just as much, if not more, than you see in Sports Illustrated.
By the early 90s, Katerina had successfully adapted to life in America. It was back home in Germany that she was facing ugly revelations about the past. In 1992, documents surfaced showing that Katerina had been spied on for 15 years by the infamous East German secret police, the Stasi.
Katerina definitely did not know that she was observed in that way. She knew that they were looking at her. When she had to travel into foreign countries for competitions and they talked to her when she came back, she had to talk, otherwise she wouldn't have been allowed to do her sports. But when she found out, finally in '92, she went into her files and she saw her files. It was 3,700 pages and she didn't know that it was so much.
I was most shocked once I got to see and to read them. I mean, there were files, more than 3,000 pages just on my life. And then finding out that there was starting to watch me since I was 8 years old just totally blew my mind. And I was very much disappointed in a way because I felt I was just so honest. I was honest about my country, and I always came back. I never gave them a reason to believe that I might wanted to defect, but then sitting there and reading your own file and seeing your entire life in front of you in pages, it's just unbelievable. I mean, I sat there reading it, being mad, being angry at the same time. Sometimes I would laugh because you would have a conversation written down one by one. Conversations I had with my coach. I would sit there and just start laughing because I would remember this conversation. Oh my God, I can't believe that. I really said this and she said that. And then he would start thinking, God, who wrote this down?
Katerina sued to block the release of her Stasi files, but lost. Against her wishes, portions of the secret police files were made public.
The worst for me was then all of a sudden when the press finds out about my Stasi files and they drag it into the paper. I mean, how about that? That was the second time I felt betrayed, actually. Once I felt betrayed by the East Germans, that they spied on me and they had files on me, but at least it was somewhere away, locked away. But then all of a sudden, there's West Germany and a whole democracy, and here I am, and I have to open up the files, and I have no rights to protect them, really. I feel more see-through now than I was when I was spied on.
On the next Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Yeah, right.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Test Drive the Future. From
comes with helpful tools.
Relapsing. Tracy Gold in court, accused of driving drunk. Plus, before they were CSI stars, Melina pregnant, and Emily's casting couch scare.
Do you find anyone that says no?
Hollywood secrets uncovered. That's this weekend.